Drivers today are rarely focused only on the road ahead of them. I know from personal experience that I'm usually thinking about something other than the immediate task at hand, driving my car safely to my destination. Sometimes even my eyes wander from the road to make an adjustment or test my multitasking skills. I know that I am not alone, and that most drivers are guilty of giving less than their full, undivided attention to one of the biggest risks we take every day, operating a machine weighing over 2 tons, moving at speeds of up to 70 miles per hour. I would like to make you see just how dangerous of a risk this is, the consequences that have stemmed from people taking this risk, and what we can do as a society and as responsible drivers to avoid this problem. With the number of distractions facing drivers today, it is no surprise that our attention is often pulled away from the road. Distractions have always existed for drivers for as long as there have been cars to drive. Many people like to use their time in the car to have conversations with their passengers, or to finish grooming or putting on makeup before they get to work or wherever they are going. Some people like to stop at drive-thrus and eat on the go, and sometimes drivers even attempt to read, whether it's a bit of new information or a map to get them navigated in the right direction. With new technology being added to our cars and our hands at such a rapid rate, this list continues to grow. We like to have the perfect song playing, so we adjust the radio, CD player, or MP3 player to our liking. We like to use the most efficient route possible, so we program the navigation system. We like to stay in constant contact with the friends who aren't in the car with us, so we use our cell phones to make a call or send a text. We like to stay updated on our favorite social media networks or the latest viral videos, so we use our smartphones to access the internet while behind the wheel. We may think we have it under control and that we can multitask, but the truth is that most of us are not in as much control as we think. We don't immediately consider the risk that we are taking. We think that we can focus on driving and another task, and that we'll see if anything changes. Conditions can change quickly, though, with no warning. Factoring in weather conditions, traffic conditions, pedestrians and animals entering the road, and unforeseen obstacles, a second distracted is a second gambled. Extensive research and public service announcements have made people realize the gamble associated with driving while intoxicated. Taking your attention away from the road to focus on something else, though, is actually a risk that surpasses that of drunk driving. Too many drivers don't know this or don't consider it. As reported by State Farm, over 20% of drivers access the internet or text while behind the wheel, and texting is the most alarming distraction from driving, as it requires visual, manual, and cognitive attention to be diverted from driving. The gamble of driving while distracted is just not worth it. In 2010, 33,000 people died in automobile crashes, and according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, close to 1 in 10 of those deaths were caused by distracted driving. This estimate is actually low compared to other studies, which range up to 1 in 6. For a perspective of just how many people that is that died in 1 year due to distracted driving, 1/4 of the total students enrolled at Ball State could be gone. Drivers of all ages are taking this gamble every day, and the IIHS calls it an epidemic on the roads. No matter our age, the fact is that the attention we give to in-depth conversations and devices and other tasks is attention not given to driving safely, and this puts too many lives at risk. While we're turning our attention away from the road, the public is actually turning their attention toward this epidemic. Over the past decade, state governments have begun enforcing new regulations on inexperienced drivers, such as limiting passengers and restricting cell phone use for newly licensed drivers. For drivers of all ages, bans on texting are now in place in Indiana, 38 other states, and the District of Columbia, and the federal government is providing $46 million in incentives over the next 2 years to states willing to expand distracted driving programs. Additionally, a campaign is now sweeping the nation to increase awareness about this most hazardous driving distraction, texting. It's called Wait to Text. News programs and publications and other entities are rapidly teaming together to spread the message that your message can wait. Public service announcements on the issue are also becoming more prevalent, such as this one by AT&T, which you have probably seen on television several times. Wish TV Channel 8 News is also among the host of groups joining this program and asking people to take the pledge and not text while behind the wheel. The message is spreading fast, and we need to be aware of the risk we are taking by driving distracted. The best way to avoid accidents due to distracted driving is to avoid distractions in the car. This seems obvious, but when you think about how many things are distracting you from the road, it may take a conscious effort. Keep conversations light. Driver and passenger alike should keep in mind that the person behind the wheel has the primary responsibility of keeping the car safely on the road. It would be rude or It would be rude to ask the driver and passengers not to have conversations while driving, but you need to remember that very in-depth or stressful discussions are better saved for later anyway, because then everyone can offer their full attention and no one is distracted from the road. Use the mirror for rear view, not for vanity. If you're a person who's usually late and makes up lost time by finishing your grooming routine in the car, plan ahead and start leaving yourself extra time to get ready before you have to leave home. It will be easier to do at home anyway because you won't have to keep looking back and forth from the mirror to the road. Eat at the table, not at the wheel. It is impossible to keep two hands safely on the wheel and eat a burger and fries at the same time. Eating your meal at a table will probably be more enjoyable, and you'll end up with fewer ketchup and mustard stains down the front of your shirt and Coke spilled on the carpet. Drive between the lines, don't try reading between them. Any printed text requires you to look away from the road to read it. If it's something that's extremely imperative that it be read immediately, pull your car off the road to stop and read it. Don't try to read it while you're moving. Leave the radio alone. Find a good radio station that fits your liking and leave it there. If you're annoyed by long commercial breaks like I am, do a little bit of planning ahead before you leave home to keep you from channel surfing while on the road. If your stereo or MP3 player are compatible with each other, make yourself a playlist for a totally personalized, commercial-free experience. If you don't have this option, find a CD from your favorite band for the same effect. Familiarize yourself with the unfamiliar. Study a map or look up directions before leaving the driveway. Don't try to look them up on the way. If you're using a GPS system, program in and verify your destination before you are moving. Don't try to type it in while you are moving. And lastly, wait to text. Text before or after you drive, but not behind the wheel. Let incoming texts wait and calls go to voicemail. If you just can't keep your hands off the beeping phone, turn it off or place it far out of reach. And if you're expecting an important message, plan for pit stops along your route to check your phone safely. Don't be fooled by hands-free or voice-controlled systems, as they aren't as much safer as they appear. They do allow your eyes to remain focused on the road, but your mind is still distracted. The tips that I have offered you will hopefully stay with you the next time you get in your car. Distracted driving is indeed an epidemic on the road, as you have seen from the statistics and facts presented to you today. As responsible drivers, we must be aware of the problem and stay alert on the road to avoid further tragedy. Remember, when behind the wheel, a second distracted is a second gambled.